So when I travel around the world and read the news when I'm home, what I see is that democracies are in trouble nearly everywhere in the world. And I'm singling out democracies because one might think that democracies would have a chance to solve some of the problems we face as a civilization. But the center left and the center right are losing support in nearly all the democracies. Meanwhile, centrist neoliberal politicians are striking new trade deals, trying to convince publics that it's good for business. But the unanswered question is what's good for business good for the people? And that is a question that many politicians don't want to engage with, as these trade deals and the globalization of our economy and our finance system has produced fewer good jobs while amassing unprecedented wealth for the few. So the question that we really need to address today is, what would a better economy look like? What would an economy look like that was better for people and for the planet? And can we imagine organizing ourselves democratically to bring those changes about? So we live with a consumer economy that's kind of layered on top of the neoliberal, market deregulated, privatized economies around the world. Consumer economies are supposed to make us happy, but they don't. Stuff doesn't make people happy, but we are conditioned through advertising to believe it's true, and it does feel good to go shopping if you can afford it. But meanwhile, people are being driven into debt. The planet is depleted of resources, and the waste problem of cheap, obsolescent stuff is literally killing us. As we speak, and I'm going to stop the depressing stuff and turn to happy stuff here real soon, but as we speak, we're in the midst of the 6th great extinction, species extinction on the planet, produced by a species, us. It is our economy that is killing the life support system of the planet. How did that happen, and how is it that we can't seem to fix it? So that's my mandate for the day. We are told by politicians, and indeed I think most people who are living the good life in advanced economies really have come to think growth is essential, but in fact growth may be what's killing us. So we hear euphemisms for sustainable growth, sustainable development, green growth, but anything that has the word growth in it is part of the problem. So an interesting question is that how can we move away from a growth-driven economy, growth at all costs, toward a sustainable or steady state or circular economy in which we live with the resources we've got on this little spaceship called Earth that is not going to be resupplied anytime soon, and how can we manage the wastes from the stuff that we process through our economies in a way that also contributes back to the planet rather than further depleting it. So it's time to develop a new economic system. And it seems to me that we would be well to keep in mind the words of an early economist, Kenneth Boulding, who was John Kennedy's environmental advisor in the 1960s. And Boulding said that anyone who believes that you can have continuous growth in a finite system is either mad or an economist. So economists have a tunnel vision for what they do, but it's a vision that doesn't connect very well with how it works, whether it's killing the environment, and more importantly, what would be an alternative vision that would work better for people and for the environment as well. So what would this kind of an economy look like? I'll just run a few ideas so you can talk at your tables about them, and then I want to talk about the politics behind this kind of an economy. One of the things we would have to do, of course, is change the investment structure that we live with. We are now a finance and speculation-driven economy. Let's go back to producing stuff. What does stuff look like that would be good for people on the planet? Well, education is a good example of that. Why should you all leave here with a mountain of debt? Why don't we invest in education? Why don't we invest in infrastructure? Why don't we invest in arts and culture and daycare and more leisure time for people and distribute what growth there may be better so that more people can prosper? So that will mean discouraging speculation, and as you can imagine, there will be people who will resist that idea mightily and claim that they are making jobs for people, that there is a trickle-down effect, which doesn't seem to be empirically demonstrated any time I've seen, but you hear this argument time and again. So we are going to inevitably discover that we have a problem of democratic power that we need to address. So in addition to thinking about what would a better economy look like, one that is investing in people rather than profits and paper, but what would a better democracy look like? One that enables us to make economic decisions at the local level, state and national and global level. Economic democracy might be an idea whose time has come again. And indeed, if you look at the Bernie Sanders campaign, you get the sense that that old idea has now started looking fresh to a lot of, especially young people who feel that this economy does not work well for them. So when we think about rebalancing our values and thinking about ways of calculating and measuring life quality beyond GDP and growth, measuring life quality in terms of leisure, time with friends and family, of vacation time, of engagement with arts and culture and literature and just nature, so that we can perhaps appreciate it in a way that doesn't involve extracting its resources so we can make more consumer things. That as we think about those values, we also want to begin attaching them to political organization that might help us get there. So I invite you also at your tables to discuss what would that political organization look like. As I look at the world today, I'm seeing anger on the right, anger on the left, probably in equal amounts. In fact, I've checked survey data of the European democracies, the OECD Club of Democracy, and there are about as many people on the right and the left who are angry. But what's interesting to me is that the right likes hierarchy, likes organization, likes strong leadership. So if you look at what's happening, first here with the Tea Party in the US, and then around Europe, countries like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, Austria, all the countries, France, the countries that you think of as kind of centrist democracies now have strong and growing right-wing parties. And you know, the last time this happened in the 30s, didn't end well, did not go well. So we now have the rise of reactionary, conservative, racist movements around the democratic world. Meanwhile, the equal number of people who are angry on the left, they're in the streets, they're occupying cities, countries, but the conversion of those occupations into organized, effective politics of the sort that can win elections and help us think about bringing a better economy into being, one that might help the planet support life in the future, those organizations need to be invented. And I'm seeing a few of them. The Podemos party in Spain is a kind of a hybrid movement party, although it tipped more toward a centralized party and lost some of its movement base. There's an alternative party in Denmark that is a hybrid movement party that interacts. The movement interacts with the leadership. That's an interesting model. Is that a stable model? Is there another model that might work? I think we're at a time when ideology, let's leave it behind. Let's just try to be effective. Let's try and do things that work pragmatically to save the planet and make life better for the people on it. Thanks very much.